What's going on, moms and dads? Welcome in to the latest episode of the Fade to You podcast. Today is Thursday. How about Thursday, April 27th? And we're 30 minutes away from the start of the NFL draft. Wanted to hang out before the draft started and talk some NFL. We haven't talked NFL since the Super Bowl, so it's nice to have football back front and center for a couple days, really. If you're a Fresno State fan and you're waiting to see where Jake Hayner goes. So anyway, the Fade You podcast is a sports betting show for the everyday bettor. Whether you're a total degenerate betting NFL draft props like crazy, firing everything you can think of, or you just want a little action, we're glad you're here hanging out with us and checking out our show. Whether you've been here a while, we appreciate your support and hanging out with us. So guys, let's get into it. Quick roll call here. Matt here, Chris Duke here, Kmart here. Maybe going to be joined by a very special guest, very close to the Fade You podcast. We'll see if he makes it. Let's talk football, NFL. Why don't we start with, I know the draft is happening, but we had some big quarterback news this week and today. Lamar Jackson finally signs the extension. Congrats to Ariel Epstein, a friend of the show, and Ravens fans everywhere for locking in Lamar. So you love to see it. Let's get a quick hot take on Rodgers to the Jets. Chris, you're always the big fade the narrative guy, right? So what is the narrative around the Jets this season? Do you think it's they have found their missing piece and Rodgers is going to complete the Jets and take them somewhere that they haven't been in a very long time? Or do you think people are out on Rodgers and are going to say, he's old, end of career, not going to help that much? What do you think the big narrative is on the Jets going into next season?
Well, all the Jets fans obviously saw Taylor Mathis interview a couple ago. We're going to get a couple more Lombardis. We're going to have to move over the Lombardi, you know. But, you haven't got one since Namath, right? But, no, I think I know there's mixed reaction on, Follow the Money. You got Paulie says, look how good they play with. I mean, if they can be that good with Zach Wilson and Mike White, how could they not be even much better with that defense? And, hopefully the running back, his ACL gets all healthy, and they do have pieces. So, but Mitch Moss kind of is on taking my angle, and he's like, I don't think they're going to be as good as people think. So I kind of tend to, like you said, fade it. I think the win total will probably be inflated. There's probably value, and so I'm going to be looking at that. It'll be interesting to see what it comes out as. We're thinking, what do we project it, Matt? Right around 10.5-ish, maybe, maybe 11 with some juice.
So I think back to last season when Russell Wilson went to Denver, right? And is that kind of where that win total ended up? Was it in that 10.5 range?
I think 10.5.
Okay, so maybe Chris is right. When you have the big marquee QB move, clearly there's excitement. Maybe it is that 10.5 range. Kmart, do you agree with Chris? Or how do you think this Rodgers perception shakes out?
I mean, it's probably somewhere in the middle. If I were able to find 9.5, I'd probably take the over. 10.5, I'd probably take the under. I think 10 sounds about right. Again, what Chris said with that defense, they're going to be good regardless. And if they have a quarterback who can limit mistakes and hand off to Breece Hall, and obviously Garrett Wilson being a year older, and some of the other wide receivers they've brought in, the team's deep. But can they all gel? I mean, it takes time to, build that relationship, the route tree, timing. So, defense and a run game can win a lot of games. And yeah, I would take 10.5, probably under, or just pass altogether.
It is going to be really interesting. I mean, this is a few times now in the last few years, right? It worked out for Brady going to Tampa. You win the Super Bowl right away. It worked out for Stafford going to LA. You win the Super Bowl right away. Russell Wilson last year in Denver, not so much. Still waiting to see if the Westgate will refund my Super Bowl wager on the Broncos from last season. So I haven't heard back from them, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, we love the big QB moves, and it certainly keeps the NFL exciting. So how about the flip side? How about Green Bay? Do you guys think people are going to just completely write them off? Like they're done, they're irrelevant? I mean, The NFC North had the Vikings win it last season. The Lions should have made the playoffs based on the way they played. Chicago signed a whole bunch of guys. Kmart, you start with the Pat. What do you think the narrative around the Packers will be?
I don't know, man. I've seen a lot. Like, can their offense be good? Jordan Love, they still have some, nice pieces. Their running back core is, still pretty elite. But defensively, they weren't very good. I don't know. Like, I could see that being 6.5 or something. And I mean, I'm not good at that shit, Chris. I don't know if you have something different, but I think the narrative is going to be, probably not a very good team, but I could see him being competitive. It just all depends on Jordan Love. I mean, there's not much on him. I was high on him coming out of Nevada, but the narrative around him for the past 4 years has been he doesn't look good. There's the reason they're hanging on the Rodgers. So there's a big question mark on him. But I mean, they have pieces, but I think defensively is a bigger question mark on that team than offensively.
Utah State, right?
Yeah.
You said Nevada. So no, I think that goes with your point. He's so irrelevant now. People can't even remember where the fuck he went to school, or probably that he was a first round pick. So I think it kind of backs up your point, Kyle. So Chris, before you kind of agree or disagree with Kyle, yeah, and talk Packers. Buff in the comments wants to know what's up with the mustache.
I just shaved the beard the other day, and the wife likes it, man. I don't know. I don't know why she's crazy. I don't know why she's with me. I don't know why she likes it. But,
well, there's a lot of people wondering that too. But that's another pod for Chris. So, Chris, what's your take on Green Bay and the Packers? You think they're just forgotten now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like we'll see. Like Kmart said, it depends on how low they open it. I mean, obviously, they've got the season in their hands at home against. All you got to do is beat Detroit, and you make it in. And Rodgers couldn't even do that. Vikings had a great. Everyone's saying Vikings are going to regress. They won all those one score games last year. Can the Lions we think are going to be the most inflated team? Everyone's team, darling to make the playoffs. So, and then the Bears are the Bears. I mean, are they? Obviously we know they have a good quarterback, but what about the other pieces? So, I would be inclined if it's really low to go on the over. I think Love can like hold his own. Obviously, we know he's not going to be MVP caliber like Rodgers a couple years ago, but RIP Cooper Kupp. But yeah, I mean, I think that'll be interesting because typically those teams like to be in that division, like to beat up on each other. So historically, so we'll see.
And it's crazy. I just did like a quick search and just Vegas Insider. So the over under on the Jets right now is 9.5. Not too much juice on the over, -134. But no line on the Packers. So like even they don't know where to place it.
Wow. Well, I mean, people will say when you're looking at win totals,
here it is 7.5.
Okay. I was going to say we can revisit this later in the offseason as we get closer to training camp, but I mean, that's where you can typically find an edge where the book doesn't know what to do. So maybe there will be so much uncertainty around what this is going to look like that maybe there's an edge there. So, okay, we got to welcome into the Fade You pod. Actually, this guy, I think Fade You was this guy's idea years ago. So we got to welcome Kevin Cox to the pod. Kev is a very dear friend of all of ours. I only had to try to email them the link like 4 different times, trying to multitask and host the show. But Kev, we're glad you made it.
Thanks, Bev. It's just an honor to be on. Huge fan of the show. Especially Chris Duke, kind of starstruck right now being on the show with him, but it's an honor, and thanks for having me on.
Are you starstruck because of the mustache?
Yeah, the mustache.
The stash.
The mustache really is playing well tonight.
Last time I saw Cox was the day after I tore the Achilles, and I couldn't participate in pickleball with the dad. Very sad, very sad.
Very unfortunate.
Right.
It's very tough to see.
But yeah, Chris was immediately ruled out for the rest of pickleball. So that was really, really too bad. We'll have to run it back next time Cox is in California. Buff, it depends on what weekend they do. Super Contest weekend. Last I heard, they haven't decided. So we'll see. Hopefully going to make it back. We'll see.
Otherwise,
The
two
other
of us
reason-
idiots will be in Boston.
yeah, I know. Some of you guys are going to Boston.
19th. I think Kelly confirmed August 19th. But
okay, that sounds right. It sounds like when they did it last year. So anyway, we wanted to have Cox on because so Cox and I go way back. We share a fantasy football team in one league, and then we're in a dynasty league together, also called the Gauntlet. It's incredible. Oh, yeah. So NFL draft comes around, people start talking fantasy football. And the reason I want to have Cox on is because I've never met anyone in my life who loves and is more optimistic about rookies than Kevin Cox. The guy has never met a rookie that isn't a future Pro Bowler, borderline Hall of Famer. So we wanted to have Cox on and talk about a couple guys because this draft is really interesting. I don't know if anybody is sold on any of these quarterbacks being like really, really good prospects. And it seems like the best players in the draft aren't even agreed on either. And then you have a running back who's supposed to be a prodigy, but no one takes running backs in round one anymore. So it's a super interesting draft. And Cox, first of all, did you ever get your answer between Bryce Young, CJ Stroud?
Did I get my answer? I've been doing research. I've been asking around. I'm still pretty torn on both. But I think if I were to have to choose one, it would be Bryce Young. I talked to Kmart about it a little bit. We like his accuracy. We like his intelligence.
Yeah.
And that really bodes well for the NFL. But neither of them are really – I would give an elite grade to either of them. Wouldn't give an elite grade to either of them. So – yeah, a bunch of good quarterbacks, but none that really, really stand out to that are just auto draft number one for me.
Yeah, I mean, like they're talking about, right before we joined this, over under 4.5 quarterbacks in the first round, and in my opinion, Bryce Young is the only quarterback worth a first round pick. Like Will Levis, I was watching another clip on him. He played in the SEC against state opponents. How many times did he throw over 200 yards? 1. How the fuck do you think he's going to correlate in the NFL? CJ Stroud, just not a big fan. I don't know why you would go top 10 on him. I mean, look at the history, and since like the past 15 years, there's like 2 quarterbacks, and one of them retired early that were true potential Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Like I just don't understand why teams keep busting a nut and wasting all their picks, just like the Niners did on Lance. I mean, I was sitting there wanting Justin Fields, and I mean, honestly, so far he looks like the best one in that draft. So we'll see.
Well, I think what you're both kind of getting at is there are few sure thing prospects this time around, but like every single draft, there's so many teams that not only need a guy, but have been searching for a guy. Like how many different dudes did Carolina cycle through right before they trade up to get number one? Look at the fucking Colts. How many old vets have they cycled through just praying to find the guy? And now the Raiders are looking for a guy because they let Carr go. So there's so many more teams that need one and are desperate to find one than there are actual good ones. It makes it really compelling. And then the wild card is who's going to pull a Niners? Who's going to be the surprise team that trades up, right? Is Minnesota going to trade up and get a guy? Is Tampa Bay going to trade up and get a guy? And if they swing and miss like the Niners did with Lance, how fucked are they? Because those teams, aren't as complete as the Niners were when they pulled that trade. Chris, what are your thoughts on QBs here?
I wanted to ask Cox about how he feels about his boy Lamar, since he was way ahead of he knew he broke the spectrum, and he's kept getting shocked at the spreads being like -2 on the road, and he's like, hammer that. Legit, he beat the Rams like 40-10 or some shit. You think Lamar's going to keep it up?
Yeah, I think Baltimore made a great decision signing him, paying him. He's I've always been pretty high on Lamar, and he's just a freak. Like I said, he broke the NFL for a few years, and so he has that capability. And I think there's no reason he's not going to just be entering his prime right now. And And now that he's got his contract, he can play more free, and playing year to year like that, trying not to get hurt as a running quarterback. Now he can kind of like let it loose. I think he'll play. I think he'll do really well.
Hopefully he can make it through a season.
That'll be good for
God.
that division, to have Burrow really good, to have Lamar really good. Once the Steelers get set, obviously we hope that their quarterback's going to play well, and then you just got, and now the Browns. I mean, they should be decent with Mr. Tugalug too, so we'll see. That division's lit.
It's a great nickname. So, all right, Cox, we talk quarterbacks, and we'll see how many go. I mean, Anthony Richardson, go 4th overall. Well, good luck with that. I mean, wow.
Yeah.
But we really want you to talk about running backs, because it's pretty clear from the last few years that NFL teams are not valuing running backs going into the draft. Most of the best ones in the league the last few years have been second-round picks, right? Jonathan Taylor, second-round pick. Derrick Henry, second-round pick. Breece Hall, second-round pick. Dalvin Cook, second-round pick. So I don't know if Ezekiel Elliott going 4th overall, Saquon going 2nd overall, I don't know if those days are coming back. But with Bijan Robinson, you think they should. So here's my question for you. Where should he go? And then we want to get to, where will he actually go?
Well, I mean, Bijan is different from even Zeke, Saquon. And it's like people talk about, you can't really draft a running back in the first round. But Bijan is like, it's hard to just label him a running back when it's pretty rare. I don't know if I've ever seen the best pure runner in the class also be the best pure receiver. He might be up there with, in terms of his ball skills, his route running, with the top wide receivers in this class. And so he's a very unique weapon. It's not just some running back. So he's really on a lot of big boards in the NFL. Various teams around the league, they have him number 1 in this class at any position, and not just number 1, but the only player on some. I'm hearing from some teams that he's the only player who's been given an elite grade in this class. And so GMs in this league, it's a lot of them are they're going to be hard pressed to pass the number 1 player on their board. Like smart GMs will draft for value, and they'll trade for need rather than drafting for need. So where he should go, I mean, if I were the Cardinals at 3, I would take him. They're not going to. If I were the Falcons at 8, I would take him hands down. I mean, they're just a quarterback away if you take Bijan along with Pitts and London from having a really explosive, scary offense. The Bears at 9 should take him easily. They got so much draft capital for their number 1 pick that they can afford a luxury pick. But it's even hard to call Bijan a luxury pick. He's like, with his status being so high up there. And then the Eagles at 10 should take him, because again, that offense is going to be very, very scary. So if I'm a GM, I'm going to pull the trigger. And also, you would think people would be crazy to trade up for a running back. Of course, it sounds crazy to do that, but you're trading up for your number 1 player on the board. That is not a bad trade up. So I think you should go high. If you really need, some of these the top 2 positions, if they need a quarterback, can't blame them for taking Young and Stroud. But after that, why not take a shot on him? Because he's really a surefire bet for me. A lot of people are trying to say Gibbs is right up there with him, but Gibbs is not the complete dynamic weapon and the versatile weapon that Bijan is. So I think he should go really high. Will he? We'll have to see. But I would be surprised if these GMs, pass on him when they're staring at the number 1 player on their board.
Okay, Kmart. To what extent do you agree with Cox's glowing outlook on Bijan Robinson's career?
I think Cox and I are sharing a brain right now. I think he's the second best player in the draft. I mean, the Texans clearly need a QB, so I mean, it doesn't make sense for him to fall there. But I'm right on board. Like, I'd love to see him go to Chicago because I would love to see Fields, Robinson, DJ Moore, and they have Darnell Mooney as well. Like, I want to see the Bears make that jump like the Lions did and just
Sounds
compete.
like a fun offense.
And yeah, like it would be insane.
Yeah, exactly.
I do believe he goes top 10. I think it would be crazy. I mean, I'm not big on Gibbs either. Like I think the second best back is probably Tajay Spears. You know, probably similar to, if he can stay healthy, DeAndre Swift, just with his quickness, can catch the ball in the backfield. But Robinson, I mean, there's not many guys that are 3-down backs. Like, even JT's not a 3-down back. So, I mean, I was making the argument when I was drinking some old fashions last night. Just
Nice.
like, first round, you have to take the best player available. It doesn't matter about your team needs. That's what rounds 3 through 6 are for. That's where you build your depth. But in the first round, you got to take the most athletic, the best available guy. Fuck your needs. Like, be smart, because at the end of the day, it's draft capital. Because you can end up, I mean, look at what the Bears did. I mean, it's probably the best trade I've ever seen since the Ricky Williams trade. Just getting all those assets and DJ Moore. I mean, they were just so smart. And no deal unless we get more. They want to do it, and we're not going to trade it. If you want them, DJ Moore and all these picks. Like, it was literally the best thing I've seen probably in a decade from a management standpoint.
Well, it should be fun to see where this guy ends up. There would be some really fun landing spots. The Eagles would really make that a tough offense to defend. I think the Chargers would be a lot of fun too if he somehow slips past the teens. That would be pretty exciting. Fuck, if the Bengals just decide, you know what, we don't want to pay Joe Mixon top money, and we want to be able to put that money in our QB extension. Maybe they go young at running back and do something crazy to try to get
That's
this
where
guy.
I think Spears could go.
Yeah, so a lot of really exciting landing spots for running backs in terms of good teams maybe taking a shot on one of these guys. So we'll see. Let's get out of here with this. We are getting close to 5 o'clock. The underlying narrative all summer is going to be, is Tom Brady really retired? Is he really done? Or is he going to pull a fast one and come back? Now, I don't think anybody believes he would go back to Tampa Bay, but there's a lot of – he's been asked multiple times, are you retired? And he just says, well, you know, it's great to have some time right now. And he never actually says, no, I'm definitely retired. Cox, you think he's coming back?
Hands down, 150% Tom Brady coming back. Why would he not just shut the door if his career is really over? I mean, the fact that he's being all wishy-washy, we've seen this exact thing before, and then he comes back. Miami, I think he would love to play there. That's where all the buzz is. It would just be a good fit for him. I think if he had the opportunity to go there, he would. You know, he's just way too competitive, and he just loves football way too goddamn much to really, you know, lay in the towel and stop. I think he wants more. And yeah, for Miami, I mean, what a massive increase in brain power from Tua to Tom if they go that route.
See what you did there. What do you think, Kmart? You think we've seen the last of Thomas?
I think we have.
Wow. You think he's...
I haven't seen much, but I don't know. Like, maybe he can. I don't know. He's just old. Maybe he goes and gets his wife back, you know, builds his family back, and then he's just like, all right, one last hurrah. You got to model, you got to do your thing, you got to sleep with some other young guys, but, you know, come back to the old buck and let's go out the right way. So I don't know. It could be a, fun little storyline, but yeah, I'm just going to go with it. I think he's done. And honestly, I kind of hope he's done.
It's a long summer, man. Those competitive juices come July. Oh man, I really like to be throwing with the guys right now, getting ready for football. So
he doesn't know
be a whole
without.
No, and like you said, Cox, like the longer he goes without actually saying I'm definitely not coming back, the speculation is going to continue. So everybody look forward to that for the next several months. But it is time for the draft, so we're going to get out of here. Short little show today. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to the pod. We've got some hockey stuff coming up next week for the second round of the playoffs. We got a bunch of other stuff coming up for our sort of slow season in the summertime. We'll get back into baseball pretty soon, too. Get Joe back on. Chris's mustache left early. We think the tech overlords didn't like the tug reference, so sorry about that. But yeah, subscribe to the pod. Subscribe to the YouTube. Give this one a like, and we appreciate that. Thanks for hanging out, everybody, and we will see you soon.
Peace.
Thanks, Buff.